All right. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to today's session, What Small Businesses Need Now, Insights from the Growth Business Accelerator. I'm Sarah Becerra, Interim Chief Program Officer here at Prosperity Now. Thank you so much for joining us. It's National Entrepreneurs Day. It's a day to recognize innovators and problem solvers and small business owners, as we're talking about today, whose work strengthens communities across the country. We want to acknowledge the Truist Foundation and Allstate for their support of the Growth Business Accelerator. They weren't able to join us live today, but their partnership helped make this work possible. And what do we mean by this work? Today, we are sharing early insights from the Growth Business Accelerator, one of our programs designed to prepare CDFIs and ESOs to better support programs, small businesses pursuing opportunities in emerging sectors, while also strengthening the broader infrastructure that entrepreneurs rely on. Our focus is not just on what individual business owners need to succeed, but also on what the organizations that support them need as they navigate an evolving economic landscape. So that is the impetus of our conversation today. This work has always been rooted in partnership, learning, and building stronger networks of support. And it wouldn't be possible without you all. So we're grateful that you're here to be a part of this conversation. So let's talk about how we're going to spend our time together today. First, we're going to start with a brief overview of what we tested and learned through the Growth Business Accelerator into a panel-style conversation about our main topic today, what small businesses need now. So we've invited all of our partners. We've got two of our partners that were able to join us today from BCL of Texas and North Branch Works, and we're going to be hearing more about their firsthand experience in putting together and implementing this accelerator program. Though that will feed into our insights on what small businesses need now, and then we'll feed into finally what's next for our entrepreneurship network, this work, this connection, and these learnings. Where do we go from here? We are going to save some time at the end for conversation and questions. Down at the bottom of your Zoom navigation screen, you'll see a Q&A section. Feel free to drop your questions in the chat as we go. You'll have an opportunity to have those answered towards the end of our session when we move into our Q&A. But as they're coming in real time, feel free to let us know. We can be monitoring those as we go. Just jumped right ahead here. Here we go. One second, our slides just jumped ahead. Let's jump back into a little bit more about our cities represented by this program and the regions that we captured. Let me get back to sharing. There we go. Let's talk about what we set out to do here with the GBA. 4 cities, 4 regions, 1 mission. When we began planning the Growth Business Accelerator, or GBA, you'll hear us say, we kept hearing the same story from organizations across the country. Entrepreneurs were working hard, new opportunities were emerging, and local leaders were committed. But the systems meant to support small business growth weren't keeping pace with economic realities on the ground. Some ESOs and CDFIs had deep expertise but lacked capacity to expand their services. Others were navigating an evolving economic landscape without clear guidance on how to respond. And in many of these cities, organizations were doing strong work, but doing it in isolation. Limited visibility into what their peers were learning and where coordination was most needed. The GBA was designed as a response to that moment. Instead of assuming a single model would work everywhere, we set out to test approaches alongside partners, to listen closely, to learn quickly, and understand what local communities and support networks need to operate well. Over the course of the pilot, the initiative evolved into a learning community, which you'll hear more about later today. Practitioners were able to compare experiences, test new ideas, work through real challenges with peers who understood the same constraints. By moving together rather than in parallel, partners gained valuable insight into where systems were fragmented, where entrepreneurs were hitting roadblocks, and where alignment could unlock better outcomes. What emerged wasn't just a set of tools or training, although that was certainly a part of it. It was a clearer picture of what actually it takes to support entrepreneurs effectively: stronger relationships, more consistent navigation, and the capacity to translate economic shifts into relevant and timely services. At its core, GBA was created as a learning initiative, a chance to test strategies, gather insights, and understand what CDFIs and support organizations need to help entrepreneurs succeed and scale. Here's what we focused on: building capacity among ESOs and CDFIs. So what you'll see on the screen is this connection to helping businesses enter new markets, navigating that economic transition, having tools to guide them along the way. Connecting partners was another big aspect of this. Again, you'll hear from some of our partners later today to build those stronger local networks around entrepreneurs, coordinated, accessible support when it's most needed. And finally, expanding access, creating clear routes to contracts, assistance, technical assistance that help businesses scale and sustain growth. This narrative of testing, learning, and adjusting in real time is what shaped the GBA and continues to guide where we go next. And that brings us to talking a little bit about Prosperity Now's approach. This initiative reflects Prosperity Now's flywheel approach in action, which you see reflected on the screen. We started by testing new models with partners, learning from their on-the-ground experience, and being able to refine those tools and strategies along the way. From there, expanding our approaches that are consistent, that are sustainable. So our innovate into incubate, learning, piloting, delivering results. This flywheel keeps us grounded in real-world practice while also building towards solutions communities can use and scale. We learned a lot over the course of this program, this large-scale programmatic initiative. Here's some things that we saw across the different cities and the different regions. Well, we started to see ecosystem fragmentation, which was slowing business growth. Heard a little bit about that already. But where strong support was already in place, entrepreneurs still struggled to navigate through that ecosystem. So being able to avoid the duplication of efforts and the siloing was a big learning across all regions. The next one, entrepreneurs need hands-on navigation and technical assistance. Access to information isn't enough, although it's a great first step. What we do with that information, how we strategize around personalized strategies and tailored approaches, translates that learning into action. The final piece was that ESOs and CDFIs need support to translate economic shifts into services. This ever-evolving ecosystem and change market looks like, how do we recognize emerging market opportunities and have that capacity building that supports it as well? So supporting that transition period to make sure that the innovation, back to our flywheel of incubation, of innovation, and then starting to shift that into service delivery. These insights helped clarify what ecosystems require to support entrepreneurs more effectively. We'll hear some really tailored examples in a little bit, but let's zoom out a bit and look at the numbers. Progress by the numbers. We engaged. You can see the Growth Business Accelerator reached communities across multiple cities, engaging organizations and entrepreneurs at every level. And here are some of the things we accomplished in this initiative. 120 ESOs and CDFIs engaged. We've graduated 75 practitioners, reaching over 148 small businesses, and delivered 110 plus hours of training. 36 entrepreneurs received phase 2 intensive navigation support. 86% of participants met their learning goals, being able to apply, to engage change in their organizations, in their approaches and be able to make that shift with personalized, tailored guidance. So we're very proud of our partners and this initiative and our funders to be able to say that there was impact here. Impact comes also from lived experience, and we heard a lot of great experiences from participants about the program. You can see a couple of those here. As we continue to share out this body of work, we've got a lot more. Wanted to highlight two of them here. One from Aliki Marinos, co-owner of Belmar Wire. We're incredibly grateful to Prosperity Now for the opportunity to participate in the GBA. The program sparked ideas we wouldn't have explored on our own. We'll continue to reference and implement the valuable tools provided. And then Taryn Smith, founder and CEO of 37 Oaks in Chicago. Peer support was truly invaluable, helped translate concepts into real world situations we could all relate to. That sense of community, sparking the great collaborations and fresh perspectives. I think Prosperity Now has done enough sharing and talking about the background. And it's been an honor to be engaged in this work, to be partnering with great organizations like BCL of Texas, North Branch Works, the Latin American Association in Atlanta, and Temple SBDC in Philadelphia. And today we get the privilege of hearing from two of our partners, Brian Marshall, Jonathan Snyder. I'm going to do a quick, and I see you on screen, this is working so great, a quick intro for both of them, and then we'll jump into more of a moderated conversation where I really want to hear about your experience, about your learnings, and given both of your extensive backgrounds, how this all connects to what you see happening in your ecosystems. So let me do some proper introductions first, starting with Brian. Hey, Brian. Say a quick, why don't you, we'll say hello, and then I'll tell more about you. Hey, Brian. Let's do it.
So Brian Marshall, Chief Programs Officer here at Business Community Lenders of Texas, or BCL. And I'm overall entrepreneurship, homeownership, and economic empowerment programming for us in the state of Texas. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you. And you've got more than 20 years of experience in small, micro, minority business expertise, a wealth of knowledge, a long-time trusted advisor, and just an honor to have you and your team involved in this work and this project. Jumping over to Jonathan. Hey, Jonathan.
Hi, Sarah. Glad to be here today. Jonathan Snyder, Executive Director of North Branch Works. We've been around for more than 40 years as an economic and community development nonprofit, focused along the North Branch of the Chicago River, for those of you familiar with our great city. And it is a former industrial area and remains so, but we've also seen a lot of change. So helping businesses negotiate that change and helping city leaders understand what's truly needed in the area.
I love that. I think just hearing about the level of expertise you bring, as well as North Branch Works, in terms of that long history of doing this work, made you a really wonderful, compatible partner. And so this is our first time partnering. We're going to talk a little bit about that. But thank you both for the brief introductions. I'm going to take the slides down so we can just have a conversation and talk about the GBA from your perspectives. Why don't we start with you, Brian? What were some of the biggest wins from your perspective that emerged during this pilot portion of our work together?
Yeah. Well, some of the biggest wins we have was, we talked about this earlier, creation of strong industry-specific content. That was a big deal, and that can be applied across multiple states to include Jonathan's. That was a key component there, where it was consistent, organized content. And here's a big one, creation of the alignment of an ecosystem type thinking with a focus on target specific industries.
Sarah, you're muted.
I didn't want to be distracting, but then I robbed myself of a voice.
Mhm.
Yes. So that tailored. Well, what were some of the things that allowed for that to happen, Brian? Or how did you see that approach being done a little bit differently than what you've experienced in the past?
Well, we engaged with Prosperity Now. We had some university support experts in the field and the key industries we were focusing on. At the time, that was green focus, uh, really narrowing the content down that could be absorbed in each of these communities, especially Dallas. So if you're talking about the green industry or just windmills, things of that nature, we have more. This is Texas, so it's more Longhorns and oil, and most can't spell green. So having content that the business support organizations and the certified development financial institutions, BCL is a lender, we've been doing this for over 34 years, help kind of mesh this together.
And can I just add on to what Brian said? Because we had some pretty big wins in terms of breaking down some of the silos. So just like you coming up with a more comprehensive understanding, one of the things I liked about the Prosperity Now approach was how we were able to spend some time just pulling in different partners to set the ecosystem in place. So the ecosystem of business support and entrepreneurship support providers. So we're talking more directly with each other and establishing that trust that's necessary if you're going to be helping businesses or making referrals to partners, so that we're all working towards the same growth for small businesses, but doing so together.
Agreed.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about trust building, Jonathan, and I think Brian too, you and I in different contexts. What were some of the ways that that process, because we're talking about ecosystem building in some of
Mhm.
this and removing silos and removing the fragmented of the field. How'd you do that? What were some approaches that worked for you?
Well, we built from strengths. So we had a number of partners already in place that we've worked with for years, and we went to them first and said, "Who else do you know that's in this field that we may not know ourselves?" So we started with one of our strong allies, World Business Chicago, which has a regional approach. So they knew people in different places. And they said, "Who should we be talking to?" And they gave us a list of names, and we started working with them. So we'd never worked with the Polsky Institute at the University of Chicago, which is far on the south side. We're a north side organization, but we expanded our geographic footprint. So we connected with other entities that we wouldn't have before. So you start with the people that you know and ask them, who don't we know that you can help connect us to? And then we work to make connections there. And the first time you're meeting with somebody, it's never with an ask of, "Oh, can you help this?" The first time you meet with somebody, it's, "Hey, what do we have in common? What are our alignments? What can we build together that we might not be able to build on our own?" And from there, you start, you just have to remain consistent. So it's not just a one-off conversation and you never hear from that person again. And that's what I appreciated. We had a couple months to do that, to follow up, email, phone call, letter sometimes. And that's how you begin to establish that you're not going anywhere, that you're going to be there for the long haul. And you've had the conversations about the things that you have in common and can work on.
Yeah. And what Jonathan's saying, everyone, is it's what's in it for me. So when you're coming, think of this, we're coming to these business support organizations, other financial institutions. You're going to hear this silo talk quite a bit from us because most of the time that's what it is. And then you bring in this, "Hey, what's this?" So what Jonathan and Sarah are saying, it's getting past this, what's in it for me? Right? It's, well, here's what's in it for you. It's a way to expand and expose their services, their programs to this new type of ecosystem. And ecosystems are partnerships, collaborations that are moving things. And I'm sure we'll get into a little bit some elements of that as well. So hopefully that adds some clarity to it.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think as you're thinking about, well, as we're having this conversation around ecosystem and design, it really does start with that discovery of who are the players, who are the players we don't know that you
Mhm.
know, and then for this particular specific audience, what do they care most about? What are they needing? Where are their gaps? And how is the work that we're doing or the coalition building that we're working towards meet their unique needs and also build
Mhm.
the greater body of work. So I love that question. Who else should we be talking to? Who else do we not know?
Mhm.
Well, these are some wins. What about challenges? What was I because we got to do our debriefs and our check-ins, and so I want people to know about what was hard about this building, this timing and how did it go overall?
You
The
want to start?
biggest, oh, go ahead, Brian.
I said you want to start.
Oh, okay, sure.
You dive in.
I'm happy to start. The biggest challenge that we encountered was that this was a 1 year pilot program, and I think that it could have been 2 or 3 years. I would have loved to have spent even more time building that ecosystem of partner support organizations. When you're compressing that into a few weeks or a few months, you don't have as much time to establish what we talked about earlier, that trust. So if we could have spent 1 year just working on the ecosystem, I think we would have had an even stronger partnership. And then when we started phase two of reaching out directly to the businesses, those businesses could have been tied in with our partners a little bit better already. So we could have asked our partners, well, who are the businesses that you think should participate, and have a little bit more buy-in from the beginning from everyone. And then work with the businesses for a year, and then see how things ended maybe a year later. So this is my plea to all of the funders out there: consider multi-year grants, because it takes time to establish a new program, and then it takes time to evaluate the results. So if you're going to commit funding, which I'm very grateful for, it's my plea to every single funder, not just Prosperity Now and Prosperity Now's funders, to just give more time for those grants to make the impact that they're trying to do, and so that we can better support businesses.
Yeah, and I agree with Jonathan. And what Jonathan is saying is really the challenge. Everyone, here's the best way to position that. It's quality over quantity.
Yes.
And we don't give the programs enough time. You cannot convert a business or transition a business in 3 months like it's a 30-minute sitcom, right? It doesn't work that way. So I'm with Jonathan. Sometimes quality means you have fewer participants, but the quality of the outcomes are better because it's capacity scale to work with those businesses. So I'm agreeing 100% with Jonathan. It's really the biggest challenge was just quality over quantity. And
Mm-hmm.
really with accelerator programs, what we also find is, hey, the pipelines sometimes are really small depending on what you're looking for, the qualifications. So part of this quality and time piece is, hey, you got to build up from another resource, which is another, I'm sure it's a good segue to the other learning component. It's a stairs, how can we stair step from other programs into this particular type of program? Perhaps this is a much more graduated program versus, hey, there's startup level programs or different types, and can this be graduated in? But it's still about the quality of the participants and the quantity versus the quantity. Let's just get 100 people into a program. Yikes, right? Quality tends to fail with that.
Mm-hmm.
Are
Very.
there, yeah, so I hear the aspect of aligning readiness to the program to um how
And
that
timing, length,
Mhm.
and
And
quality,
and
and time.
timing, yes.
and timing. Say more about the timing piece.
Go ahead, Jonathan. I'll follow.
The you have to make sure that the business is in the right frame of mind. This is how I thought about timing.
Yeah.
They have to be poised for that growth. So we had a couple of businesses that were startups and looking. They were existing, but really looking to make that next level of growth. And those businesses, they're usually primed for this kind of information, this kind of accelerator. They're new, they're excited. We also had some businesses that were much older, much more established. There was one auto shop that was trying to break into a new market. So they'd been around for, I think, 50 years. But they recognized that they had no expertise when it came to electric vehicles, EVs. So they were trying to figure out how to kind of future proof their industry by expanding into this market. But again, they recognized that there was a need. And then it was the right time for them to participate in this kind of program where you're switching gears a little. Oh my goodness, I actually said switching gears talking about an auto
Ah,
mechanic. That was completely unintentional. But it just shows that you have to be ready for that change or have to be ready for that startup opportunity. And if they're not ready for it, you could take them to all the accelerator programs you wanted. They still wouldn't get as much out of it until they were ready for it.
Ooh,
mhm.
Jonathan's bringing up, now we're getting to some juicy things. All right, everybody. I don't think if you are an entrepreneur or someone that works with these small businesses and entrepreneurs, you should understand one thing. Entrepreneurship in small business is a contact sport. It is not designed for all of you to win. It is not designed that way. If it was, then there's a 92% national fail rate of all businesses over 5 years. So we'll pick on Dallas. Dallas produces 375 new businesses a freaking month. To Jonathan's point, all cannot be scaled up, ready to go. So that's where the layers of these types of programming comes in with timing, right? Right timing for the right type of business. And then you're going to have some entrepreneurs. Remember, Jonathan, I said it's like Chicago and Kanye, you can't tell them anything.
Right.
So you just need to realize that piece of it, right? And then let's go into understanding a few things when we talk a little bit about some of these businesses, growth versus scaling. When I say scale a business, I'm looking at bottom line profits in the business. We're squeezing more water out the rock. We're making the business more profitable. Growth means we got to grow. We got to throw a lot of dollars, money at it just to get a top line revenue number. So some businesses, to Jonathan's point, it's timing, it's where they are, understanding the need of, hey, is this business needing capital or does it just need more operational support? Because in some instances, depending on where the business is, right, Jonathan, access to capital is a symptom of a root cause of another problem.
Mhm.
Just because you want this capital does not mean that's what you need. You may have a marketing issue, something else is going on with the business, right? And my final statement in Texas, hot mess begets hot mess. If you are a hot mess running your number one business, in many instances, it's your household, you tend to be a hot mess running the business. If you can't balance your checkbook in your own household, how are you going to balance the checkbook and running the business? So I threw some nice wingers in there to kind of
Mhm.
float over what Jonathan is saying. Hopefully that helps.
Oh, I agree with you completely, Brian. I can't, so many businesses will say that their number one need is capital, and you're absolutely right. It is not. And matter of fact, sometimes that will do more, oftentimes that can do more harm than good. Because if they're not deploying that capital in a way that actually helps them grow, then you've wasted time, money, and resources.
It's the old movie, The Train is on the Tracks. It fast forwards to the gulch, the bridge is out. In many instances, what we're finding in this particular program is, well, giving them access to capital may slow the train down, but if you do not fix what is wrong with the business that's causing the cash flow constriction, it is inevitable. It will go off the
Mm-hmm.
tracks. You've merely just slowed it down.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my play with the scale, kind of some of the concepts that we've been discussing. Hopefully it helps.
We are getting some very good quips. I think the quote of the day is hot mess begets hot mess, because
I think so too.
clean data in, clean data out, hot mess data in, hot mess data out. And I also think about what you said is about it being a contact sport. A contact sport as in, yeah, we gotta be fighting and looking ahead and strategizing. And also a contact sport of who should I be talking to? Who can I be advised by? So that brings me to my next question. Look at that nice little lead in. Acknowledging that cities and regions can vary widely in their readiness for a program like this. From your vantage points, what foundational systems or partnerships need to be in place in your region, in your city, for a program like this to take root and grow?
I'll start off with this one, Jonathan. So in Dallas, am a founder of building an ecosystem. What the key thing and key takeaway everyone really needs to understand, we've talked about silos. It is a good technology base for your ecosystem, for the partnerships. For example, we used a company, if I could say, EcoMap, and that technology base of what we were providing was AI backing. With the AI, it allows a couple of things. It's intuitive versus just a static site where you got your resources, right? And the client or small business has to go figure it out versus an AI-backed ecosystem technology platform that we actually ran regionally across 3 cities, right? Met the client where they are. When you create your profile, it then can connect the small business owner who wants to navigate through to the organizations and resources that are providing them. So if you're going to do any of these type of programs, a strong technology base is key because it takes out the element that causes the silo, people. Not like us folks, but but that's one of the key takeaways that we learned is once you put this technology in place, and we'll go a little bit of what we're talking about of how you measure and scale an ecosystem too. But go ahead, Jonathan.
I agree with you. And I would also have to say that a strong partnership network.
Yep.
And it could be a trusted central partner. So somebody in maybe your downtown business area that many people know about, but also partners within neighborhoods. Chicago has a huge divide between wealthier neighborhoods and poorer neighborhoods. It has suffered so much disinvestment in some areas, and there is a digital divide that follows that disinvestment. So on the ground partners who can help identify businesses that might be poised for these types of programs, who may also be able to offer hubs to access that technology that they may not be able to access otherwise. So I'm thinking the mom and pop lunch places that might be trying to just grow or maybe shift from breakfast and lunch to also offering dinner. They need to be able to access that too. So how do you get them? And it has to be with a trusted neighborhood partner who can then help them plug into a larger network. Without that kind of last mile connection. We don't see us, we certainly don't have the capacity to talk to every single business in the city. No one does. But with that strong network, you actually can. But the localness does help. And yes, I'm going to patent the word localness.
Yeah, I agree. I agree 100%. That's scaling, which is what Jonathan covered. It's the density or population area covered.
Mm-hmm.
Jonathan also covered flow, which is the ability to move the participants or the small business owners seeking the opportunities to the right organizations and partners providing them.
I like how you say it a lot more than I do. So thanks, Brian.
I like how you both say it. I like that connection to credibility and trust building. Who are you coming in? And you don't know our neighborhood. You don't know our unique challenges and what's in it for me. And to be able to have that trusted partnership. And even as folks are thinking about how do we strengthen our ecosystems, what's the work that we can be doing now that will stand up that readiness. So we're not reacting to an opportunity, but we're starting to build the opportunity for ourselves. I love that. Yeah, continue.
Sarah, I actually want to, one of the cooler parts about this program, and it really came to light as we're talking through this today, is you had 4 different entities from 4 different cities in the country who had some similar challenges and problems, but also were representing different cities at different stages in their growth and development. And it was nice for us to all be able to talk together on a regular basis to do some of that peer learning from each other as we were also developing and delivering these resources and services. So I appreciated getting to know Brian and the folks in Atlanta, and I used to live in Philadelphia, so reconnecting with my Philadelphia roots. It really, I think it strengthened all of our programs, and it certainly did for me.
Yeah, and I agree. I mean, you're Chicago. Dallas is one of the 9th largest cities in the country. Atlanta. These are huge, urban, dense populations that we got to. Oh, hey, you're having the same problem or reinforced.
Right.
It's the same adoption issue. Remember the BSOs, what's in it for me? Getting the story down. Here's what this is. Here's how you can be a part of this. Here's the benefits for you long term. And then getting the right partners in place, including your cities, right? Your small business economic development offices, getting them aligned, right? Some city small business and economic development offices seem to think they have the solutions. And sometimes the city is the problem, right? Right? And
sometimes,
yeah. So that's the old saying. Sometimes the city can't be running the ecosystem; they can be a part of it. Which is what we found in Dallas, is that hey, you got to kind of, it's like herding cats to do this, right? And to scale these things, understanding the density area, you can't. It's not the whole city. It may have to be a certain area or targeted industry. And then the key thing, how do we measure the flow? Sarah, you showed some of that information. How do we measure the impact that we're having? Not so much are we getting enough businesses to flow through this thing that we built to the right resources to measure opportunities. Final thing here, though, is one element we should always be focusing on is the purpose of the business is not to go save the dolphins and everything else. Those sound wonderful. The purpose of the business is to survive, grow, and scale. Why? So that at the end of the day, the business owner has enough profits in the business so that produces income. From income becomes investment capital. That is how wealth is built. I will say it, the business cannot make the entrepreneurship wealthy. It cannot do it. That's not even how the model works for wealth building. So put that element to putting this all together. There's different plays on different things, but we understand what the goal is to help the business grow and scale, be profitable in margins, right? And some, because if you go just after revenue, we've all heard of them, Kmart. I used to go to Sears and Roebuck. They were billion-dollar top-line revenue businesses, but if you don't make any money, you're out of business.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
We've got just a couple minutes left, and I want to ask one more question, and then we'll synthesize with final thoughts. But since you were just talking about it, Brian, this idea of the purpose being survive, grow, and scale, and thinking about measurement and evaluation from either of your perspectives, what should we be measuring? How should this work be measured from your vantage point?
Hey, Jonathan, I got one additional item here, which I've noticed quite a bit with working with accelerators and programs. Everyone, we must also be able to measure the learning capacity, the social emotional intelligence of the entrepreneur. Not all can
Mm-hmm.
absorb 6 weeks, all this content. I did
Mm-hmm.
one at the University of Texas that was 26 weeks long. Plus, it had 3 months of additional aftercare. Guess what I saw? Many entrepreneurs showing up in other programs. So one thing to measure, yes, I saw the 86%, but what tends to happen is we've got to measure their movement through the purpose of an accelerator is not like an incubator. And I've ran 5 incubators. They just incubate. They're just there. They don't scale. The purpose of the accelerator is let's figure out what's broken, put it back together, go.
Mm-hmm.
So we need to be measuring the kind of the volume, the rotation of these entrepreneurs through multiple programs to see if we get the growth.
Mm-hmm.
Not just, oh, they went through our Prosperity Now program, but they're going to show up in Bob and Bill's accelerator program a month later.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's a drop the
Yes.
mic moment.
It is. Because all of my follow-ups are going to be
That's
we're
why
going
they drop to go first.
yes. I love that the evaluating the business's ability to absorb and take it on. I would at the baseline for some of our evaluations, it should never just be revenue. It should always be income. It should be or net income, because reducing expenses can be just as important as raising revenues. And then I always tell people I'm actually not in I'm not pro business. I'm actually pro jobs. So I look at job creation too. That would be the best way to help some of the many disadvantaged communities in Chicago grow and develop that wealth. Not everybody's going to be an entrepreneur. Some people want to work for others, but there have to be those opportunities. So if we're helping to scale these businesses, in addition to investing that money back in the business, they're hopefully hiring more people to do more good to support that business. So if we're not tracking revenue, net income, and jobs, then we're actually not tracking anything. And I do agree with you, Brian. We should also be finding a good way to measure that it's not emotional maturity, but the ability to take what you've learned and then apply it and grow your business. And scale. Sorry, I'm going with scale.
And remember, everyone, entrepreneurship is a tool. It is only a tool in your toolkit, right? And the other thing that we learned from this, Jonathan, is if you're not careful, the pitch becomes the business model.
Ooh, that is true.
Oh, Jonathan just went through my program, Sarah. And so we helped him accelerate, tighten up his pitch, right? Then he comes to Sarah's program and he wins the $500 prize. Then he comes back to, Byron's program and the pitch becomes the business model. It's just a deck. It's just a slide deck with and that becomes and I've seen that quite a bit as I rotate through different accelerator programs, and I'm starting to see the pitch. And some of these, I have one business, they actually sell for, what is it, Sephora?
Mhm.
And they've gone, and when you sit down with them, the business owner has no clue around the business model other than reciting the pitch, because the pitch is what's becomes a business model. They can get grant funding, access to capital, simply by doing the Shark
Mhm.
Tank, which is just pitch.
Mhm.
It's a really important layered approach to thinking about not only are we aligning readiness, entrepreneur readiness, and what is that sequence, learning sequence that I like the idea of how are we thinking about our ecosystems, our regions, and the programs that exist, and are they meeting who are the right, so that it becomes a sequential journey that the region supports. And then this idea also, to your point, Jonathan, of job creation. And I know we've gotten to have conversations and explore advancing job quality. And what are
Mhm.
both of these levers that really, when we set out to design, pilot, and iterate, incubate, innovate on a new accelerator program, that we're making sure we're tending to all of these questions before the design process, or learning as we go and making those adjustments
Mhm.
accordingly. Hey,
And
we
there,
brought these
but
folks in and they're not necessarily, we could have asked some different questions in terms of readiness and
well, yeah. And so
trying.
Jonathan brought up a good thing with around jobs. So when we say jobs, hey, last I heard, entrepreneurship is a 190-hour week job, right? And when we say jobs, let's be realistic. 97% of all the businesses in this country, about 34 million of them, 34 the plus, don't employ anybody, right?
Mhm.
They're going to be what they're going to be. So let's be clear in the setting expectations when we build these programs. The number one job may be just to sustain the entrepreneurship person and the 1099 employee who it's a job, but it doesn't show up as a W-2. So one of
Mhm.
the key takeaways we could all do is advocate when you say grow a job, that don't forget the 1099 person that's on the books, but it doesn't show up as a job. Don't forget the one owner. That's a job.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
sustainability of it is just that. Final piece is continuity planning. Last I heard, there may be another recession, there could be another pandemic. How do we sustain the business looking through the front windshield to sustain and maneuver through all that going forward? All right, open it up. Let me ask questions if they got any.
Yes, let's get into some questions. So in a moment, I'm going to go back to sharing my screen to synthesize some of what I've heard. We'll keep you spotlighted as we jump into our Q&A portion in just a moment. But some of the outcomes and the outputs around our topic, what entrepreneurs need now and next, is that guidance through complexity. We talked about that. What does the ecosystem look like, and how can you, as resources, experts in the region, be able to share that in unpacking that complexity? The strategic connections of that trusted peer network, that trusted collective network and ecosystem, shared experience, practical guidance. We heard some great testimonials and even more wins that we want to be able to elevate as time goes on. But relationships, contact sport. I'm going to use it, Brian, but we got to contact each other. We have to be in the room together. We have to build these communities of practice, even as you shared, that was a helpful experience for you all. access to resources, we know, but in a variety of different ways. The right-sized capital, not just capital, like you said, Brian.
Mhm.
These revenue generating strategies, measuring income and looking at the levers that really align to longevity, sustainability, and then capacity building resources, some of that alignment to operational, financial, just looking at the ecosystem, not just having a pitch, but having these systems and processes and foresight at play, and having technical assistance to help you get there. And that brings us to what's next, and then we'll jump into Q&A. But from here, where do we go? This opportunity, this pilot really created an opportunity to experiment, to discover, to try new things, to learn from you all, which has been phenomenal, see what supports businesses most. So where we go from here is documentation, building out these learnings, sharing them with our entrepreneurship network and in future convenings like this, being able to strengthen those partner networks. Who do you know that we should be talking to is going to be an ever-present question that we are asking at Prosperity Now. And then continue to explore ways to expand what worked, learn from what didn't, and be able to implement that for practitioners and entrepreneurs. So that gives us just a little bit of time to continue the conversation, to discuss, to dialogue. We've got our Q&A little chat bot, not a chat bot. It's just a little chat box. There we go. For any questions, we'll take a moment to see if there are any.
And don't
And
be shy, or otherwise we'll call your names out. Sarah will. Don't be shy.
Or maybe we answered every single question that could
Yeah,
possibly be out there, right?
that's got to
yeah.
be it.
Doubtful.
But we do have just a few minutes, so let's give it another minute to see if we get any questions, and then we can close out with some final thoughts from each of you, Brian and Jonathan. I think it's really powerful to get to have these kinds of conversations, especially so, I mean, timely. It is National Entrepreneurs Day, but to be able to elevate the great work that you all are doing,
Mhm.
not only in a capacity of your regions, but like you said, the cross-sector collaboration, the willingness to show up to these partner meetings, to share what you're seeing. So from my perspective, I just want to say thank you so much, both of you, to all of our partners throughout this process, because you've really shown up, stayed committed, and made this work what it was. So we at Prosperity Now are incredibly grateful. And we have a question from Jennifer Medina. What is a business success story you are excited about from this program?
You want to start, Jonathan?
Sure. One of the businesses that I was really excited to participate was they call themselves Mushroom Coffee. So it was an entrepreneur and it was their side gig. But it started growing, and they participated in the GBA, and it's going to become their main source of income. And they also pivoted in their marketing based upon the conversations that they had going through the accelerator, so that they're not just there's no coffee in it, so they actually are renaming themselves. It's a mushroom chai product, and I'm really excited to see them grow. I think that they're going to take off because of this. I'm also going to mention that that auto manufacturer early, or the mechanic earlier, because I think that that's a very cool thing to see a very mature business start to look in a new direction, and this gave them the space to do that. So I know you asked for one, I gave you two.
Real quick, I had one which was an architectural firm. What we're able to do was two things I discussed, which was connect them to a larger organization we're supporting. We're lending to business development companies, meaning they can buy the land and then we sell as a lender. We can lend the development dollars to include the architect in that. And then the other component was helping this young man and his firm understand how to build wealth using making the business profitable, scaling the right way was a key thing there.
Thank you. Oh, Jen first says great stories. Thank you. Thank you, Jen. Tetha, I see your question in the chat. Is Prosperity Now funding BSO to deliver programming? Could you explain your mission? Yeah, and we're so glad to have you here and learning more about our work. And as we are building out what's coming from this pilot, what is being developed in terms of the funding that we're seeking from here, is that's the next step, is getting exploring different funding opportunities, or what the next phase of this program looks like in terms of operation support. And then our mission at Prosperity Now really is around advancing economic opportunity for all. So Growth Business Accelerator, looking at how do we encompass that from all of the ways we've been talking about it today: job creation, income generation, access to capital and resources, all tied to advancing economic opportunity through practical tools, research, and partnerships. So GBA has been such a wonderful experience in getting to apply that methodology and apply the way that this work gets approached. And funding is going to continue to be the effort and the goal behind continuing what comes next.
Good stuff. I got my final thoughts, and then I'll let Jonathan close it out. Final thoughts, everybody. So when you look at these types of programs, think big. I see your forest. It looks beautiful, right? Think big, right? Have a lot of big ideas. Start small. Jonathan and I talked about it. Quality over quantity, timing and scale, make it manageable. Move fast on the opportunities that are directly in front of you, right? I like Jonathan's, who do we know? How can we engage? Remember, it's a contact sport. Who should we be contacting? Move fast on those opportunities that get you the short win momentum. Think big, start small, move fast on what's in front of you. Those are my final thoughts.
It's very good advice for everyday living. Also.
Absolutely, Brian. I cannot top that. So I'm just going to do my best to add on. It would have been programs should be scaled as well. So I like how you said think big but start small, because then you can it's an iterative process. You take what you learn and you build it, and then you can grow the program over time. So just think of a program like a small business in many ways. Start seeing what you are good at and can sell, and then when it starts to work, then start to grow into that vision that you originally had. But I like that. Think big, start small.
What a great message to end us all on National Entrepreneurs Day. This important conversation. What do entrepreneurs need now and in perpetuity? Break it down, take it one step at a time. Trust, build partnerships, contact. And thank you for being here. This was such a rich conversation. Jonathan, Brian, thank you for your partnership. Thank you for all of your efforts to bring this program, this pilot, to fruition. And thank you all for attending today. We are right at time, which I love. You can see some next steps on the screen. We've got our programs at prosperitynow.org. If you have any questions, if you have follow-up questions that didn't get answered today, and also we have a quick feedback survey. We would love to hear more about your experience and what we can bring going forward that will continue to deliver value to you, your region, and the work that you do. So you can see that in the chat, right, directly linked. It shouldn't take you more than 2 minutes, and we would really appreciate your insight. So thank you for being here. Jonathan, Brian, thank you. Thank you all. Happy National Entrepreneurs Day, and have a good rest of your day. Go celebrate.